All right, this video is going to be called the coolest sand boa you've never heard of, and we're going to be talking about the West African or Saharan sand boa. This is a captive bred individual I produced in 2017. I've been working with this group of animals for really quite some time, and we're starting to see some really unique phenotypes start to show up, which I wanted to show off today. But to start off, I figured I'd just show a normal West African or Saharan sand boa. Several unique things. Obviously, aesthetically, they look quite similar to Kenyans, at least at first, but their scales are completely smooth. They have kind of a little fleshy tip at the end of their tail, and their head's slightly different. They have eyes much more on the top of the head, and more of kind of a thick nose scale there. But they're very unique in that they are one of, I think, 2 boa species that actually lays eggs, if you can call them that. It's sort of like a evolutionary in-between step between eggs and live birth, where they basically are giving live birth but didn't fully commit for the last 2 weeks, and so you get these little thinly calcified water balloons that incubate for only about 2 weeks. So at any rate, so like I said, this is the a normal type, and I'll show you some of the unique phenotypes that are starting to come in. All right, so these are been called reduced pattern, but or high orange, but I think there's kind of more something going on here. But you can see the babies are actually a lot more jumpy than the adults are. But yeah, you can really get a good idea for how beautiful this phenotype really is. I mean, these are really rather exceptional looking animals, even compared to, you know, say a Kenyan. But yeah, they seem to be quite varied in that. So you can see that there definitely seems to be some range in expression. These little guys are snapping away. I predict. So we know that this trait is at least dominant. I predict we might find that these more reduced individuals might be a homozygous form, because I mean, if you look, these guys are he's about twice as reduced as these other 2, which would lead me to believe that it might be incomplete dominant. What's really neat is the babies do this like weird jerking striking method, which is actually not dissimilar to, I think it was it's one of the vipers in West Africa. I think it's the, I don't remember what it is. One of the vipers in West Africa does this very similar movement, and I predict it might be kind of a mimicry with it, because they very rarely bite when they actually fling around like that. So here are some older reduced pattern animals, and again, we can kind of see 2 phenotypes where we have like a more reduced version and then a you know, kind of more reduced. Again, this is about twice as reduced as this animal, which would lead me to believe that this could very well be a homozygous form of the same mutation. So the reduced patterns are more of a new thing. Before this, there was really only selective breeding options. And so I'm going to start off just by showing kind of a normal wild type. So I was in West Africa and handpicked this group of West African sand boas because I really wanted to establish a nice captive bred colony. And so I've kind of selected for different subtraits that I've noticed within the individuals that I picked out. So this is sort of kind of a base base look that these guys can get. Mainly I'm talking about like this kind of faded area in the neck. And so what I wanted to go through was selecting for 2 distinct phenotypes. One is heavily high contrast and high orange, and the other would be kind of within that a high black, so selecting for more black animals. So here is a pretty decent high black animal, so you can kind of see it's a slight reduction in the amount of orange on the animal itself. So yeah, just you know, kind of putting my hands on the phenotypic scale a little bit to select for something a little bit more high black. But I've also selected for a lot of high contrast. So here is a more high contrast animal. And again, we can kind of take this original animal to kind of show up against it, just to view the difference in contrast between these 2 guys. So yeah, nothing crazy, but just you know, if I'm producing a captive bred colony, I might as well you know, maybe change over so slightly what they look like. If I'm selecting for something, it might as well be, you know, color. But what's neat about these guys is, as wild-caught adults, they really, like, don't bite. I don't think I've ever been bitten by one of these guys. And what's really weird as well is, as adults, they have, like, very little body muscle. Like, if you look, they literally kind of act like a wet noodle sometimes, which is interesting. So in contrast, here is a captive bred, a small adult, and he's starting to get that wet noodle like body musculature. But what's funny is when they're little, they're really honestly quite snappy and pretty strong, as you saw with the little babies earlier flipping around. So yeah, it's a really cool species. It's really underrated. I've been producing these guys for quite some time, and I actually quit breeding them for a number of years because they were imported for so cheap that no one was buying my captive bred offspring. So yeah, I just quit throwing them together. So this will be the first year that I'm producing these again, in probably a couple years now. But yeah, they're a really cool species. The care is really easy. It's a lot like a Kenyan sand boa. The only difference is, of course, they lay eggs, and those eggs are a little bit more tricky to deal with than a Kenyan who's just going to drop a bunch of babies in the cage.